Thank you for tuning in to the Student Organization Summit. Make sure to follow us on social media and check out the many other videos on this channel about working with and advising student organizations. And now, please enjoy your workshop.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me today for this pre-recorded workshop. My name is Katie Stiles. I serve as the Assistant Director for Registered Student Organizations at Loyola Marymount University. If you are joining on Friday, December 11th, right after this, this workshop premieres on YouTube, I'll be hosting a live Q&A. So feel free to bring any questions, strategies, tips, and tricks. I would love to continue the conversation in that space. Otherwise, I do have my email at the end of this presentation. So if you would in any way want to continue this conversation, I am definitely open. I would love to hear what you've learned, if you've got best practices that I can use in my position. So I consider this brief presentation the 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 starting point for something that's actually really difficult, and that is managing student employees and advising student leaders 100% remotely. So let me tell you a little bit about LMU if you never heard of LMU. LMU, Loyola Marymount University, we are a Jesuit university in Los Angeles, California. We have just around 7,000 undergraduate students enrolled. And this semester, this fall 2020 semester, along with I think every other college and university in LA County, we are 100% remote. So we have a very small amount of students that are living on campus out of need, but all classes and all activities are remote, are virtual. So I personally love looking at these pictures of campus because I have not been to campus in months. I really miss it. So me, along with all of my coworkers, we are all working from home and will be working from home for the foreseeable future until we are told otherwise. Before I guess we fully dive into this, a little bit about my position. So I'm the assistant director for registered student organizations. So I work with the registered student organizations. That's probably obvious. We've got just over 200 RSOs on campus. And in addition to working with the student organizations, which I'll go into detail on this slide as well as the next one, I also work with and supervise two student employee teams. We have our student support specialists and our student involvement specialists. Collectively, there are 8 employees, including 2 that work around 20 hours a week because of a work-based scholarship. So collectively, they work a lot of hours. And while I'm definitely no expert in advising remotely and managing student employees remotely, I feel like I've learned a lot this semester that I thought could be helpful for other people in a similar spot. What I think is also interesting is that the student involvement specialist team in previous semesters has never been this big. At most, we've had 2 or 3 employees, and right now I have 5. So I'm outside of my comfort zone because I'm doing all this remotely, but I'm also outside my comfort zone because of just the size and the of the team and the amount of help that I have, which is really great. But sometimes it's really tough not being all in the office together. But that goes without saying. So first, let's talk a little bit about student organization officers and advising with them, especially in this remote setting, be it a part-time remote or full-time remote. These are just a couple of things. The content on this slide, as well as the content in the next slide, are just some things that I've learned along the way. And like I just said, this is the start of the conversation. I don't consider myself an expert in this work and how it works remotely. So first, and I have another presentation that's outlining this that's later in the day. If this interests, if you want to learn more about this, but in the start of August, I started hosting one-on-one meetings on Zoom with all of our student organizations that weren't that essentially didn't have another student affairs advisor contact. So I won't go into too much detail about this, but our Our sororities and our fraternities, they have staff advisors in our sorority and fraternity life office. Our service organizations have the Center for Service and Action, which is a part of student affairs. Our intercultural orgs have staff advisor contacts in ethnic and intercultural services, and then our club sports have that same connection with campus rec. When you take those student organizations out, there are about 125 RSOs that are remaining. They encompass everything from recreation and leisure, academic and professional, media and news, performance and art-based organizations. So no two of them are the same. And I had the pleasure for 6 weeks of meeting one-on-one with all of the presidents. Was that a big undertaking? Absolutely. It really required my best self, every day. It required a lot of energy, but it was so invaluable to, I think, the rest of this fall. My campus, like I'm sure a lot of other campuses, the vast majority of our officers transition with the academic year. So for a lot of these officers, they're new to this role. They've maybe never interfaced with student leadership and development, which is my department. And so by requiring this conversation, and at most they were, some of the long ones would go 30 to 45 minutes, but on average, they were about 15 to 20 minutes. Just by requiring that and in a sense requiring them to come into the Zoom meeting with me and talk about their plans and how their summers have been and what questions they have, really facilitated a lot of the rest of the initiatives and the tips and tricks that I'll outline on this slide and the next slide. In addition to that, I have virtual office hours. This is something that I had in person, and it's the same days and times. I just started having it on Zoom. Do I have less virtual foot traffic? Absolutely. But I think it's just the continuity of operations. And for our returning student leaders, for them, it's, oh, Katie had office hours on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 2 to 4. She now has it on Zoom. So I've got this real quick question for her. I could email her, but I'm just going to go to her office hours. And that's my preference too. We all get a lot of emails, and I much prefer speaking with people face to face. So this has been something that we've carried over and that I'll continue to do in the spring. In addition to that, I also used Calendly. Some campuses have access to Microsoft Bookings, which is free. I use this. It really is an invaluable tool. I know there's a lot of other things out there. I personally just use Calendly. That's what I've been using for a couple of years, and I really like it. It's really, really, really helpful in scheduling those meetings. I have it in my signature, so if I ever get an email or sometimes a Teams chat from someone saying, hey, can I, when are you free? I just drop that link. It integrates with my calendar, and they can schedule one of a couple different meeting types. If it's a 15-minute meeting, it can be an hour-long meeting. It's really whatever they need. And collectively, these three things, I think for me, have been really helpful in making this remote work feel, it doesn't feel fully normal, but a bit more normal, is that it encourages that FaceTime. It encourages, hey, I'm here for you, and I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, essentially, and get on Zoom and make myself just as available as possible to you, because the world does not need more Teams messages and more Slack messages and more email messages. Let's actually let's talk, quote unquote, in person. So these are three things that have been really helpful for me this fall in connecting with not only that group of around 100 that I met with, but all of the RSO officers as a whole. What's also been really helpful is we've recentered a lot of our services that would maybe be in person in a way that doesn't create more work for me, which is key. None of us need more work, but we've recentered some of those things so that instead of just filling out a form, they have to actually come and talk to me and email me and reach out to me. Specifically, I've got a university purchasing card. So that's one of the ways that we've recentered that. This is going to look different from campus to campus, just based on your school size and how many student organizations there are. But I encourage you to think, okay, what's maybe automatic that we could recenter so that I am getting more face time with these students, and they are I'm not only getting more FaceTime, but I'm able to have more conversations and really see how things in their organization are going. And with this, I've really only done like 2 or 3 small changes, but I feel like I'm getting more correspondence, especially from our newer officers, and I'm able um, to engage with them and start like building that relationship, that advisor relationship with them, even though right now we're all working and learning from home. Um, Additionally, we really ramped up our online training offerings. A couple of years ago, we took what was an in-person workshop and we put it all online over the summer. And this kind of speaks to that third little blurb there, but we took a lot of the content within our re-registration and we kind of spread all over the table and said, okay, what do student organizations need to learn? Or what do they need to know, especially in this next semester? Like, what is the most important that they need to know that they could learn from a video or an online training? For us, that boiled down to 4 topics. We have one called Leo Basics. We're an engaged campus, but we brand it Leo. So when I refer to Leo, I'm speaking of engaged, but I think these trainings could be done on any online student engagement platform. So we have the Leo Basics. We have a financial management training. We have a virtual programming training. And then the last one, which is the brand new one, is adapting your operations. So really thinking about, okay, what are our RSO operations? What are some things that used to be 100% in person, and how can we begin to think as RSO officers about what those things could look like virtually? The financial management training, like a lot of campuses right now, our processes have changed. So we are still able to make financial transactions and student workers are still able to make deposits, but it's done 100% by mail. So we just revised all of that content so that students didn't necessarily need to think, okay, I'm just going to put my RSO on hold, because that's the easy thing to do. The virtual programming is just that. It talks about different platforms that they can use that maybe aren't Zoom. It's different ideas that we've seen at other campuses. It really covers a whole smattering of information about virtual programming. And collectively, although there are 4 trainings, collectively we've been hearing from student org officers that they're sitting down and completing all 4 in a row, and they're able to get them done in 30 minutes or less. So those trainings have been really helpful, because I feel like it's not only cut down on the amount of questions that we get, but it's allowing us to systematically give the information that student org officers need to keep their organization going. So something that we say a lot in my department is we need to make it easy for org officers to do the right thing. So the easy thing is to say, this is too much. My organization is just gonna go inactive for a semester. We'll pick it up in the spring. Like it's just too much. And with these online trainings, we want to make it really clear to these org officers, student leadership and development is still here for you. Most, if not all, of our processes are still available. They just look a little bit different. We are here to help. We are here to assist your organization in doing whatever it is that you want to do this semester, be it programming, social media outreach, doing some fundraising, maybe all 3. We're here to be advisors and also advocates for you in this semester when we're not all able to be on campus together. The re-registration process, we did this at the end of the spring semester for fall, and we included 2 free response questions that I thought would be helpful for the purposes of this workshop. The first one that we included is, what do you want to learn as a result of your position? The second question we asked is, what do you need more information about? These were required fields. So yeah, we got some, not applicables. We got some, some silly, maybe some like not so helpful responses. But out of this, we got so much good information. And that information allowed us to really boil down what the online training should cover. It also allowed me and my student staff to look at, okay, what guides can we create? What little instructional videos can we publish online that students can just view and download at their leisure? What do these students need to know, and how can we help get them that information? So I honestly could probably spend hours talking about RSO re-registration and best practices and tips and tricks that I've learned over the last couple of years, and really how to build out that process so that it's good for not only your org officers, but also for you. But I will save that for a future summit, a future conference. But if you would like to talk about that, please let me know. I am all ears. Um, I would truly, I'd truly love to talk about that more, but time doesn't allow us today. Oh, I just mentioned this. Sorry, I forgot that I had these questions outlined here. So those are the two questions under number 1 there that we put in the fall re-registration. And as I mentioned, we took that feedback and we put it really anywhere we could. So we've done videos, we have resource guides, we are bringing it into the president one-on-ones. It's a part of the online trainings. So, so for me, you know, getting that information was really helpful. But I think for me, it also, by using it, it also shows student org officers, hey, we're not just asking you for this information, we're asking it so that we can then help you get the answers to your questions and to what you're maybe needing to know more information about, so that your organization can thrive as much as possible during this difficult time. So um so so yeah, that's specifically with the fall 2020 re-registration. And again, we facilitate that process. We started, I believe, at the end of March, and it went through May. We ended up extending it a little bit just because of the world. So I don't think I need to go too much into that. So speaking a little bit just in the closing thoughts about working with student org leaders, motivation is it's really tough. It's really tough. It's really tough for all of us right now. So again, I am by no means the expert, but something that we keep coming back to, and I said this a couple of minutes ago, is how do we make it easy for student org officers to do the right thing? What's really important to them right now? And if they feel really stuck, we have a whole first year class. How do they want to incorporate them into the happenings of their organization? And it's been really awesome seeing all of the things that have come out of me asking student org officers this really, quite frankly, simple question. It's been really great. What I think has also been really helpful is normalizing that activities will be different. So we have a lot of student orgs that have weekly meetings, and I found on more than a couple of occasions in my one-on-ones, student organizations saying, you know, historically we've done weekly meetings, but we just don't really know if that's going to be successful. Would it be okay if we move to bi-weekly and we do it every other week? And I would remind them that this is their organization. They do not need my approval to shift their meeting schedule. And two, for me to say, if that's what you think is going to be best for your organization, then that's absolutely what you should do. We all have Zoom fatigue right now, and activities and meetings are going to be different, and that the level of difference is going to vary from organization to organization. So a lot of the motivation has been really encouragement and empowerment of, this is your organization, you're an officer, this is probably not what you were expecting, but how do we still make the most of it, and how do we normalize that things are going to be different? And really, that just takes transparency. That just takes having those conversations and really validating what a student org officer might be thinking and feeling, and also probably feeling kind of down about it. As I mentioned, with these student org officers, a lot of that has been shifting their meeting frequency and also hosting a variety of events. So we have some business fraternities that do fall recruitment processes. And so for me, my work with them has looked like, okay, this is typically what your fall recruitment process looks like. is that going to work? How do we need to change that? And really hopping on Zoom and having those conversations so that students not only have a space to kind of think about those details out loud, but they also know that they have that advisor support. I also mentioned, with especially our new organizations, ask your members if you are feeling stuck, if you do not know where to go, how to plan your semester, be it your fall semester, your spring semester. Maybe you're just feeling kind of stuck. Go talk to your members. Ask them questions. Ask them what you maybe would want to know, and then actually use that feedback. That's not only going to be helpful in terms of motivation, but it's also going to help with member recruitment and retention. Which I feel like there's some student orgs out there at LMU that are struggling with, especially that retention piece. So it seems like a simple idea, but for some of these student org officers, they have not thought of that. They have not thought, oh yeah, I should go to my members and I should see if someone has graphic design experience. I should go and I should see what they think about doing a live Zoom showcase, or maybe they think it should be pre-recorded. And so getting them into that headspace of, even though I'm a leader of this organization, I can still ask for feedback, it's not only helpful for, in my opinion and my experience, for the operations and keeping the organization going, but it serves as a really good motivation piece. The final piece of motivation is really encouraging a lack of not only live programming, but passive programming. And if you have better words for this, please let me know. These are just the two that I've stumbled on. But especially in the latter half of the semester, I feel like once a week, I have an email in my inbox from an officer that's saying, people aren't coming to meetings. They were coming in the first half and they're not anymore. And we're failing and I'm stressed. What do I do? And I first say, hey, can we find a time to talk about this on Zoom? Because this is not the kind of conversation that's best facilitated over email. And usually it's that conversation starts with me acknowledging that we all have Zoom fatigue right now. There's sometimes at the end of a day where I just cannot be on a screen. I can't be on Zoom or a Zoom equivalent platform any longer. And I just need to take a step back. And once they acknowledge that, they kind of have this light bulb, this like aha moment of, oh, that's why people aren't coming, because it takes a lot at the end of the long day to sit on yet another Zoom meeting. And that kind of aha moment leads into the segue of, what does the passive programming of your organization look like right now? This is going to vary a lot from organization to organization. But in my opinion, and in my experience working through this semester, the organizations that have done the best in terms of member recruitment and retention and hosting a variety of interesting programs that people routinely and steadily attend, is this mix of passive and live programming. So having some opportunities where it's, hey, we're going to hop on Zoom or Instagram Live or what have you at this day and time, but also creating member events and experiences and opportunities that a member can build into their schedule. So this is a simple idea, but with our outdoor club, they have an account on it might be Adidas running, or maybe it's the Strava app, but they have a little team there. And so members can contribute to it by, in their own schedule, just scheduling runs and logging them in that app, and it contributes to the membership experience. So again, that's like just one really simple example, but I think organizations I've seen that have done this really well, there's been a mix of both. And again, I could talk about this for a really long time. So pardon me, I won't, I don't want to run out of time. So, but if you would like to talk more about that, I would be happy to continue that conversation offline. We've only got a couple of minutes left, but I do want to spend some time talking about managing student employees. And for me, this boils down to 4 things: recruiting, training, managing, and connecting. And again, right now I have 2 teams. So, and they have vastly different responsibilities, and they're both wonderful teams, but they have different personalities as well, just because of their job responsibilities. With recruiting, I specifically am looking for students that are not only interested in student involvement and student life, but usually have some experiences under their belt. I look a lot to referrals, not only from other student affairs staff members, but students, other students, to see if they think there would be someone good for the role that I'm hiring for. I also do a lot on social media. It's definitely not the most exciting social media content, but it helps in getting not only good people, but a diverse pool of people. Once I have my people, or I have that pool of people that I want to interview, I incorporate supplemental questions into the application, and I also include specific scenarios in the interview questions that I do with them on Zoom. So with our student involvement specialists, they're doing one-on-one involvement consultations on Zoom, and so there's a piece of my interview with them that incorporates that scenario. With training, especially with having 8 different student staffers that all have different responsibilities, they're all on different schedules. For me, it's been really helpful to learn what type of learner they are and then cater to that. So I have some students that they're good with like a little instructional video if they need to learn something. I've got other students that prefer to actually hop on Zoom and have me walk them through it. Even though it visually looks like the same thing, they're able to ask more questions in that live setting. So that has been so key in my new expanded team. I also probably should have mentioned this, but of my 8 students, I have 1 returner. So for the most part, these are brand new student staff members, and I've actually met very few of them in person. So yeah, that's just kind of an interesting tidbit to mention. So there's been a lot of learning about what's best for them and what they're wanting to get out of that role. Video calls, so especially if you're remote, yeah, sometimes it's easier just to put things in a Teams message or equivalent Slack, what have you, and hit send. But video calls have been essential for me this semester in training my student staff and connecting with them too. I do live instructional videos. So if a student's like, hey, how do I do this, one very specific thing in Engage, I'll just record them a quick video and send it to them. So if I need to use it for another student, or if they want to refer back to it, they can. Also, with training, for me, a expression that I lean on a lot is it's not an expression, there's more of a story to it, but while it's easier to give a man a fish or a person a fish, in terms of the long term, it's much better to teach a person how to fish. And so something that's constantly going in my mind with training and training remotely, if you can, teach them how to fish. Even if it takes more time in the moment, you will get a more return on your investment if you teach instead of giving them fish. Managing staff meetings. So I meet every other week one-on-one with every staff member that I have. Those meetings, again, are usually only 15 to 20 minutes. Sometimes they're a bit longer. We also have weekly staff meetings. So with the 2 teams, we meet once a week all together just to talk about different things. We do some get to know you activities and things like that. I've also listed here a couple of the tech tools that my respective teams have used. We're a Microsoft campus, if that isn't clear by this list. But these have been absolutely instrumental in managing student employees remotely. So if you have specific questions about these tools or want to know some best practices, please let me know. I'd be happy to continue that conversation. In terms of connecting, the more that you can invest in students' lives outside their work study position, the better. So holidays, we celebrate them. Birthdays, we acknowledge them. In our staff meetings, we always have some type of like icebreaker, team building. In my student involvement specialist group, they love Among Us. So sometimes at the start of our staff meeting, we'll all just hop on Among Us and play a game or two and then get back to the meeting. So the more that you can do, just more of those fun things. And I know sometimes in student affairs, it feels overdone, but in the remote setting, it's so key to getting to know your students outside of their work study position. So the more that you can create those opportunities, the better. I realize that I am almost out of time, so I just want to wrap up with this last slide. Like I said, if you are like I said at the start of this workshop, if you are tuning into this today, I'm now going to be in a Zoom room. So if you want to continue this conversation, if you've got questions, maybe just want to pop in and say hi, go back to the schedule and get that link. I look forward to seeing you there. If you are watching this after the summit day or maybe later during the summit day, because I know this will premiere in the morning, if you'd like to email me, there's my email address. I would love to continue this conversation in any iteration, be it over email, Zoom, whatever is best for you. I'm by no means an expert in this, so any way that I can learn from things that you've maybe learned, the better. So thank you so much for tuning in, and please don't hesitate to reach out if you've got any questions or any information that you would like to share with me.
Thanks for tuning in to the Student Organization Summit. If you're watching this live, feel free to reference the schedule for the day and use the link in the schedule to access a Q&A room where you can ask questions or chat with the presenters from this workshop. If they didn't list a Q&A link, or you're watching this video after the event, thank you for your interest in the Student Organization Summit.